Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
It's my podcast, and I'll cry if I want to. Chaos Kids. I'm Amber.
And I'm Naomi. And this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
I literally just thought of that opener when you texted me and said, when I said my chaos turned into a crime, and you said, it's our podcast, we can do what we want. I'm like, there's my opener. There it is.
Your opener.
That's true.
Just be clear. The first interaction through text this morning from Amber was, I'm on crime this week, right?
Well, listen.
No, you are not.
Listen.
But thanks for freaking me out for half a second and making me second guess myself
again. Months, just keeping you on your toes. Listen. We get so far ahead in recordings that it's like I can't, it's sometimes hard for me. That's all. I'm like, what did I do last?
It's okay. Ever since that very first time when you literally had to pull a fucking story out of your ass because you came prepared for a chaos, but you were in charge of crime and I was not prepared to do a crime. I was like, every time I start to work on my story for the next episode, I quadruple check. Am I a crime or am I a chaos?
I always have just stories just sort of done, or at least done enough, kind of all over the place. So that's good, I guess. Except
that's not how I operate. I keep a list, and I definitely have a whole a handful of both crime and chaos stories that are in some state of barely started. Oh. But nothing I could just pull out and go.
Don't use the pull out method. It's not good. Not a good idea.
Just general life advice.
Don't use that method for anything.
Oh, sister. Do we have anything for the good of the order
we
today?
do. Karen from the gig came back.
She came back. You know what? If you love someone, let them go. And if it's meant to be, they'll come back to you. Karen, it was meant to be.
Karen, thank you.
Glad to have you back in the club.
Glad to have Karen back in the club. And you wanted to talk about the virtual wine night that in our reality hasn't happened yet, but in their reality has.
It already happened a week ago, and it was fucking awesome, you guys. We had such a good time.
Gosh. Are we going to be eating our words if it all goes down in a blaze of glory?
I hope it does go down in a blaze of glory. That sounds amazing. Should I record it?
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. No, because we want people to speak freely.
That's true. That's true. It's supposed to be a safe space. It's a safe space, but you guys. No surveillance here. Just, at least not from us.
We
leave that to the state. It's fine.
But we're super confident that it's going to be awesome, and we can pre-say that.
Absolutely. We have yet to have a virtual wine night that wasn't awesome.
It's true.
So the Chaos Kids are pretty much cream of the crop.
Yeah, they are.
So
that's right.
What are you drinking today,
sister?
Sis?
I'm drinking.
It starts like that.
I actually just have some water right now. I just literally just shut down my computer from my job that feeds me. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go on a walk.
Okay. Well, I love all that for you. Also, I wish this job could feed us. You guys help us too. Help us get to the point where this job feeds us.
Yes.
Please. One of our new but loyal listeners, Nick, made a video for us on TikTok the other day, which is a few weeks ago once this episode drops. But it was so sweet because he was and then every night, every episode, they ask each other what they're drinking, and half the time it's water. And I just love that for some reason.
Listen, sometimes,
What did I say? What time? Crime, sometimes wine, always
right.
chaos. That's what we have going on here.
That's right. That's a guarantee.
Guaranteed.
Mhm.
Sister, I have a heinous crime for you today.
No.
Yeah, we're going to dive into a very particular topic.
Oh, God.
It's time.
What
It's
does
time.
that mean? We were on a schedule that I didn't know about. It's time.
Yes.
What time? God. Okay. What? Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
No, but it's time.
It's time. Okay, here we go. In the early spring of 2008, Stephen Sueppel and his wife of 18 years, Cheryl, were raising a family in Iowa City, Iowa. Stephen and Cheryl were members of the St. Mary's Catholic Church and raising 4 children together, all of whom were adopted from South Korea.
Okay.
I have
I know
opinions
you
about
do.
that, but we'll move on. Ethan, who was 10, Seth, who was 7, Mira, who was 5, and Eleanor, who was 3.
Okay.
The Sueppel family, as well as both of their parents, attended St. Mary's every week. Cheryl was born in February of 1966 in Sioux City, Iowa. She graduated from City High School and then went on to receive a bachelor's in education from the University of Iowa. It was during her time at U of I that she met Stephen, who was studying business. At the age of 24, Cheryl married Stephen at St. Mary's in June of 1990. Cheryl had such severe allergies, ones that she'd had sinus surgery for more than once, and she believed she would always have to be on her allergy medication, making pregnancy a risk. This was ultimately what led the couple to decide to adopt.
God, I feel so bad for people that have severe allergies. That sounds so miserable.
I was literally sneezing up a storm and like blowing my nose right before we started recording. And I'm like, I know this is like an allergy thing, which I never used to have when we were growing up and stuff. And I've literally developed it probably the last decade or so as an adult. And they're not bad enough for me to require medication. They're just annoying some days. I can't imagine. I've known people with massive allergies. I just cannot imagine what a
miserable.
Miserable. Cheryl had been a teacher in the Iowa City School District from 1989 to 2001, teaching 3rd and 4th grade before she stopped working to raise her kids full time.
Okay.
But she remained active in the school district and the community. She and Stephen donated to the district's foundation, its fundraisers, the Iowa City Hospice, and other charities. Stephen's family was well known in the community. Stephen's father, William, was a partner with Mearden, Sueppel, and Downer, a law firm in town, and his brother was an attorney there as well. Bud Sueppel, another relative of Stephen's, owned Sueppel's Flowers and was a big U of I booster. One resident of Iowa City said, quote, "Whenever you hear the Sueppel name, you just know it's good people."
Okay.
Stephen was working at Superior Concrete in Iowa City, but this job was relatively new to him. Up until September of 2007, so 6 months prior, less than 6 months prior, Stephen had worked for many, many years at Hills Bank and Trust.
Okay.
At the time of his termination in September, Stephen was vice president and controller at the bank.
And he was terminated?
Yeah.
Ooh.
He was fired for embezzlement.
Uh-oh, Stephen.
Hills Bank officials reported on October 4th that they had noticed discrepancies in one of the asset accounts that Stephen managed. A total of 3 search warrants were executed by the sheriff's office. One of the search warrant documents says Stephen admitted to bank officials to stealing more than $219,000 over 3 years and using most of it to buy cocaine.
Oh my gosh. He's really disgracing the Sueppel name in Iowa. Yikes.
Yeah. I just spilled water all over
Oh,
myself.
sister.
I have a drinking problem.
I can see that.
Stephen wasn't charged with anything drug related, and no illegal drugs were found at his home when the search warrant was executed. An email from the sheriff's office stated that there was no evidence that Stephen spent any of the money on drugs. In fact, Stephen later recanted that story and told investigators he had made up the story because he could think of no other way to explain the missing money.
Okay.
In February 2008, just a few weeks after Cheryl started working again, having taken a position as the education and training coordinator at 4C's Child Care Resource and Referral in Iowa City, after Stephen got sacked from the bank, Stephen was standing in a courtroom to plead not guilty to 1 charge of embezzlement and 6 charges of money laundering, with the government seeking forfeiture totaling almost $560,000.
Oh, God.
For the embezzlement charge, Stephen could receive a maximum penalty of 30 years in prison, a $1 million fine, and 5 years of supervised release. Each money laundering charge was punishable by up to 20 years, a $500,000 fine, or twice the value of the funds allegedly stolen, and 3 years supervised release.
Yikes.
The grand jury indictment that landed Stephen in the courtroom that day came after an investigation by the FBI and the Dawson County Sheriff's Office, who alleged the thefts began on July 26, 2000 and continued until September 12, 2007.
That's a long time.
At the hearing, which lasted all of 15 minutes, Stephen was granted release on a personal bond of $250,000, which he would only have to pay if he violated the terms of his release. The judge noted that Stephen had no prior criminal history and was not considered a flight risk. The terms the judge laid down for Stephen during his conditional release were that he could not handle cash or checks for an employer, and he also could not possess any firearms, narcotics, controlled substances, or drugs without a prescription. He was also required to have regular contact with a probation officer and could be subject to drug tests.
Okay.
Stephen's trial date was set for April 21st, about 2 months later. Over the next month, life seemed to go on as normal. Family, friends, and neighbors knew about Stephen's legal troubles, that he was very upset by the situation, but everyone was under the impression that Stephen and Cheryl were working through it. This was a great family with 2 parents who loved their kids, who were active in their kids' lives. They were a caring, loving family.
That's a big ask for Cheryl. He just done fucked up their entire flow, their entire everything.
Their lives, everything.
I mean, allegedly, at this point. I don't know. I don't know if tough to be Cheryl in this situation.
Real tough. Real tough. Like rock in a hard place kind of tough.
Yep.
4 kids. She hasn't been working for a long time. They're living this like happy suburban life. He's got this cushy ass like bigwig job at a fucking bank. Everything's taken care of. Suddenly she's like back at work. She's a public servant.
And he's probably making a fraction at this concrete place, right?
Concrete place? Yeah. I'm not even sure what he's doing there.
No,
he's not handling
he's
paychecks
not.
or anything, right? Like he's not.
Oh God, this is awful.
So Easter Sunday, March 23rd, Stephen and Cheryl took the kids to Sunday Mass. Both Stephen's and Cheryl's parents were there as well. Everything was going well. Everyone seemed great. Later that evening, around 8 p.m., one of Stephen's friends stopped by for a visit. The friends saw one of the children, but noted nothing unusual in the house. Early the next morning, the 24th, at 6:31 a.m., a call comes in to 911. The call is brief, coming from a cell phone. The caller tells the dispatcher the address of a home in Iowa City and says, "Please go there immediately." The dispatcher asks, "What's going on there?" And the caller hangs up. The dispatcher attempted to call the cell phone, but did not receive an answer. The address the caller gave was the Sueppel home.
Is this a voice of a man or a woman calling?
They don't say at that time, but it's
Okay.
a man.
So ominous.
Police arrived at the Sueppel home and found the front door unlocked. A search of the house revealed Cheryl and all 4 of her children dead, each in a different room of the house.
Oh, God.
The Toyota Sienna minivan was missing from the house, and Stephen was nowhere to be found. A BOLO was issued for the van. Law enforcement agencies and the University of Iowa were notified, and U of I issued what is known as a Hawk Alert, which is a text alert to staff and students, of an active shooter in the area. A white male, mid-40s, and a 98 tan Toyota Sienna with the license plate number provided. The alert was rescinded at 9:45 a.m. once police discovered the location of the van. At 6:46 a.m., police had responded to a call that a minivan had crashed on I-80. The van was traveling westbound toward Iowa City when it struck one of the concrete supports under the over-the-road electronics sign. The impact caused the rear of the minivan to jump up on a wire fence that separates the eastbound lane from the median. The van caught on fire, and the driver was burned beyond identification at the scene. The following day, it would be confirmed through dental records that it was Stephen Sueppel in the van, and that he was also the anonymous caller that sent the police to the Sueppel home. It was clear that Stephen had murdered his entire family and then killed himself.
Yeah.
A family annihilator, or someone that commits familicide, is generally defined as a family member that kills multiple other family members with the goal of destroying the family unit. I think one of the reasons it's especially shocking is that it is actually relatively rare compared to other forms of crime.
Yeah.
Most commonly, familicide involves the murder of at least one child and a spouse or ex-spouse or intimate partner. In almost every instance, these murders are premeditated, and the murders are committed by men at a rate of 96%.
Of course.
Notably, in the United States, white men make up roughly 30% of the total population, but are almost 70% of family annihilators.
And I'm guessing that this trigger, if you'll call it that, is not uncommon. The financial, like, I'm failing.
This is this is one of the top lists. This is one of the identified 4 or 5 circumstances that lead to a family annihilation. Yes. These men believe that his family members belong to him, much like property, and he has the right to end their lives.
Gross.
They also believe that they are solely responsible for their family's needs. Their masculinity is tied to their family and their power and control over the family. When this is threatened, they assume a mentality of, if I can't have them, no one can.
Ew.
These men really do have a profile. They typically range in age from 30 to 50 years old, and more often than not use a gun as the method of killing. The majority of them kill their own children, a small percentage kill stepchildren, and about half of them kill themselves when they're done.
You know, this might be not popular, but it's them fuckers that don't kill themselves when they're done. You know, like what's his face that was free and clear for 40 years? John List.
John Lisk, he comes up in here. Studies done on these men reveal that, as with most murderers, a cocktail of factors mixed together to contribute to this kind of violence. There's something called anomie, which basically means the family no longer represents what he believes is the norm or what he thinks it should be. Then there's strain, whether internal or external to the family, often including financial strain. Upbringing, of course, childhood traumas. Family breakdown, often as a result of domestic violence by the murderer leading up to the annihilation. And mental illness. Consistently, those that do not end their lives or do not succeed in ending their own lives express loving their children and display remorse and mourning for their dead children, describing their children's murder from the perspective of a bystander.
Weird.
They separate themselves from the crime and place the blame on their anger as if it is a separate thing from themselves.
Okay.
There's like two broad categories of annihilators. You have the hostile, accusatory offender who is angry at his spouse for infidelity or attempts to leave, and he often displays violence and anger prior to the murder. It is speculated that these men kill their children because they either do not care for them or view them as supporting their mother.
God.
Then there's the despondent, non-hostile offender who is depressed and believes these are mercy killings, that he's saving his family from his own failings or some larger life disaster, but tend to have less obvious forms of domestic violence prior to the murders if he exhibits any
There
at
it
all.
is.
These guys kill their family out of love and protection.
Sure.
Various studies over the decades reveal types of family annihilators and predominant motives, but all have the same root cause. These people are mine and the source of my distress, and killing them solves this problem. It's that thing that comes up all the time out here.
That killing is going to solve the problem.
It's the solution to the problems.
It's just so wild. A life can be rebuilt, you know? It really can. Job loss, even prison time. It's going to fucking suck, but it can be rebuilt.
Yeah.
It really can.
It's wild. And it's wild to me that like this is such a male, like 96% of these are perpetrated by men. Like that is really something to like. This isn't. Women don't do this. They just don't.
No. And when
4% is like a statistical anomaly.
Yeah.
Right?
There was that one very recently, and I think part of the reason why it was so egregious is because it was a woman, and that's an anomaly. Remember the two women who were partners who had a bunch of adopted children who drove their car over the canyon or whatever?
Right. And we don't know for sure if it was one or both of them that did that. It might have just been one that made that decision. And then there's those cases where women like kill their children, sometimes themselves, but they don't kill their spouse. Usually. And that's like a totally different thing. And that's usually born from like severe postpartum distress.
Yeah.
And while many are familiar with some of these cases because of the widespread coverage they receive by national media, such as John List and Chris Watts, most of them do not get that kind of attention. But on average, there has been a family annihilation every 5 days in the U.S. since 2020.
Every 5 days?
More of them happen in the South than other regions of the country, but on average for the whole country, yes. I saw a TikTok video not that long ago where like in one city, like recently, like within the last month, there were 2 family annihilations in like within days.
Oh my God. And I wonder why the South.
I think part of the guess around that was that there's like higher guns per capita. Texas has a really high rate.
Okay.
And because these are more often than not carried out with guns. Although not in this particular instance. Okay, this is where it's going to get.
Okay.
Cheryl's body was found in the primary bedroom. She had been beaten to death. Eleanor, the youngest, was found in the playroom. Ethan, Seth, and Mira were each in their bedrooms. Mira would have turned 6 the next day.
The next day? Oh.
They also appeared to be beaten to death, the children, although their autopsies did reveal evidence of asphyxiation as well. The preliminary autopsy findings released by police the day after the murders concluded they all had died from, quote, multiple blunt force trauma injuries to each of their upper torsos and heads.
Oh, no.
2 baseball bats were found in the home and believed to be the murder weapons. Police said neither The children nor Cheryl were bound, but there was also no sign of an extended struggle. Police pieced together the timeline of events as best they could with the help of the FBI. Sunday night, after the visiting friend had left, around 11:30 p.m., Stephen called his dad's law firm and left a message there for his dad and his brother. He told them his family was in heaven. Police believe Cheryl had already been killed by the time of this call, while the children were actually still alive. Sometime between 11:30 p.m. and 3:45 a.m., Stephen gathered his 4 children into the family van that was parked in the garage, and he tried to kill the children and himself by carbon monoxide poisoning. When this didn't work, he took all the kids back inside the house and bludgeoned each of them to death.
No.
At 3:45 a.m., Stephen calls his former employer, Hills Bank, and leaves a message, but the details of that message have never been released. 5 minutes later, he leaves a voicemail on his home answering machine expressing his regret. 10 minutes later, he leaves another message on the home machine and indicates he tried to drown himself in the Iowa River at Lower City Park, but he kept floating. It was 5 minutes after he made that call to 911 at 6:36 a.m. that he died in a fiery crash on I-80. Witnesses indicate that the driver was driving at high speeds and seemed to have deliberately crashed into a concrete pillar.
Oh my God.
Stephen did leave a 4-page handwritten note in the kitchen detailing the murders. It is believed it was written for other family members. In none of his messages or the note did Stephen ever explicitly take responsibility for murdering his wife and 4 children. Police said his messages, much like the 911 call he made, all had a similar tone, devoid of emotions, and it was like he was using the home machine to document the events and self-report. One investigator told reporters, quote, "There was not a specific reason why he did this. The message and the notes basically contained apologies for his actions and his feeling of despair over what had happened." I mean, we know why he did it.
Yeah.
Why do police act like they don't know why men do this?
know.
Like it's just some mystery? Like this has never happened before? Like we don't have plenty of evidence to know that this is... A week after the murder-suicide, a funeral was held at St. Mary's on March 30th for all 6 members of the Sueppel family.
What?
Roughly 1,000 people attended the service. There was quite a bit of uproar in the congregation of St. Mary's, as well as the Catholic community in Iowa City at large, for Stephen to be included in that service.
No shit. Who made that decision?
Well, it was clearly a decision the family made. According to Cheryl's brother David, who spoke to a newspaper after the funeral, quote, "The thought of having them laid to rest separately was unthinkable. They were a family in life. They are a family in death. Their legacy is love. That's what they will be remembered for."
Okay.
5 months later, in August of 2008, Hills Bank and Trust filed court documents demanding payment from Stephen's estate for the alleged embezzlement funds and an additional $32,673 for outstanding loans. One of the investigating officers would tell the press, Stephen, quote, "Stephen is probably the only one who knew why he did what he did, and I don't know that we're ever going to be able to determine the real reason why this happened." Like doubling down.
Sure.
On no idea. No idea why that happened.
Were there signs ahead of time that maybe were missed of his mental health or domestic violence or anything like that?
Nope. Everybody said it was an absolute shock. No one saw it coming. This was not who they thought Stephen was. They could never have imagined. Every single person said that. And that is the Sueppel murders.
Oh, maybe that's what they mean. I mean, that's spookier that there were no signs, no indication.
This is why we always choose the
Okay,
bear.
but I think that the embezzlement in and of itself was a sign that this person isn't who you thought they were, you know, and that had
100%.
been going on for 7
Yeah,
years.
at
He is not
least.
this wholesome, everything is fine, like something is going on.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But like you don't expect somebody who is a thief to also turn out to be a family
No.
annihilator.
No.
That's not a dot you just automatically go from
Absolutely
one to the
not.
next, right? Like that's not there is not a direct connection there.
Mm-mm. And I wonder too where that money was going, and did anybody notice like, "Wow, you seem to be making some fancy purchases." Like, did you get a raise?
That was the thing. No one ever spoke to that either. And I cannot for the life of me. I was thinking the same thing the whole time. Like, that was like $500,000 over like 7 years. Like, where did that money
Yeah.
go? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe adoption fees? I don't fucking know.
This is too, like, another example of people partners, usually it's women, being left out of the financial goings-ons. It's like,
Right, because you would think that if Cheryl had any involvement regularly in the family's finances, she would have noticed
yeah,
something, unless he was literally hiding it in a Swiss bank
no
account
shit.
somewhere.
But for what?
I don't know. Because he had a good
Yeah.
job. He was an executive at a
Uh-huh.
bank. Like, executives at banks make good fucking
Uh-huh.
money. They're living in Iowa City, not like
Right.
Manhattan. You know that their life, like their cost of living was decent. Like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, it's wild.
That was awful. Also, I think the fact that his method of how he killed them says something about him being very unhinged. I would find it hard to believe that there were no
No
signs.
signs when he turns around and literally bludgeons them all to
Yes.
death with a
Oh
baseball
my,
bat.
we just talked about this. That is the
I
fucking
know.
worst. It just
I
it
know. I
it
know.
freaks me out.
I know.
It's
But I really wanted to do a dive on a annihilator story I had not heard, and I wanted to like wanted to look into the research and like talk about like the profile of annihilators, because that is a that is a I can't
I
even wrap
can't
my mind
either. I
around it.
can't either. Well, okay, and I guess I didn't hear in your list of profiles, because Chris Watts, it was totally like, I want to like go be with my girlfriend and not have a family anymore. Was that one of the
I
reasons?
think that I just
I'm
closed mine
sorry. You're
out.
supposed to know,
There's like
Naomi.
I'm sorry. Well, it's like there's anomie, which is like the loss of the norm in like the family doesn't look normal anymore. It's not it doesn't look the way it's supposed to
Mhm.
look. Then there's like mental illness. Then there's strain of any like strain, and that can include financial
Mhm.
strain. And then there was a
I
fifth one.
think
I
you
can't
did
remember what
say
it was.
affair, but
No. Well, if the wife is
mhm.
having like is has infidelity with that. So like but it's usually like I said, it's a combination of
Mhm.
factors. Like all these things mixed together. Like there's got to be like some mental illness going on. There's, usually there's like, things from their childhood, and then there's like, all these other factors like pile on that like make somebody like fit the profile or
Yeah.
whatever, like do the thing, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think it's really common. I think financial strain is one of the most common that we're used
Mhm.
to, but like um essentially it's like I need to get rid of this whole family because they're a reflection of my masculinity, and I don't like what they're reflecting back to
Mhm.
me.
God.
I mean, this is the like epitome of like this is one of the outcomes of like hyper masculinity and like patriarchy under a
Mhm.
capitalist system.
I mean, and my
Yeah.
first thought is like, if that's the case, then like disappear. And John Lisk proved that living completely as a different person is possible. You don't need to kill them. You could have just ditched them and done that.
You could have just ditched
Like,
them. It's interesting too, because one of the things I read when I was researching the stuff, when I was looking into the research on family annihilators prior to like the modern era, a lot of the family annihilators were like religious based reasons.
yeah, they're going to heaven. You're doing them a favor.
Well, and that's what did he say? He said, fucking Steven said they're in heaven now. So it was okay. It was okay because he was just sending them to heaven sooner.
Sure.
Right?
Oh my God, I hate it. Thanks for that.
You're so
fucking hated
welcome.
that.
Well, we know that your chaos story turned into a murder,
I didn't.
It's double crime today. We're sorry, chaos kids.
All right. So I don't have a palate cleanser. I'm gonna take you over to Cummings, Georgia. Okay. Pistol Black. Like, what a fiery name.
Right?
Is Patrice's son. And he was in the 10th grade when his mom went missing.
Oh.
I know. He's such a handsome adult. Yeah. Pistol. What a pistol. He says that he woke up that morning before school, and he woke up the same way he did every morning, which was the sound of his mom running on the treadmill. That was like his alarm clock.
Right on.
It was April 15th, 2004. And his mom dropped him off at school. And he remembers arguing with his mom that morning because he was wanting to get to school early so he could spend some time with the girl that he was dating before it was time to go to class.
Well, yeah.
Oh, man.
We want to like suck face over in the quiet spot in the quad.
That's
Mom.
right. God. Before class shenanigans. That's where it was at. And in between classes. Yeah.
Yes.
But they still ended on a good note. Patrice told him that she loved him and that she would see him in the afternoon. He told her, I love you too. And he got out of the car and went to school. Later on in biology class, the school resource officer pulled him out of class and asked him, have you talked to your mom? And he was like, I haven't talked to her since this morning when she dropped me off. So while he's sitting in like the admin office with the resource officer, he calls his mom's cell phone repeatedly and gets no answer. And his mom was extremely involved in his life. Like, that was her baby. And so it was very strange for her not to answer.
Well, it sounds like it's a single mom situation. Like it's just the two of them.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that weirdo.
But they're tight.
Fucking tight.
They're tight.
Patrice worked as a hairdresser, which is something that she had done for many years, and she was really passionate about it. And Pistol says that she would oftentimes use him as her hair model, which drove him crazy as a kid because he constantly had a different cut and a different color. That's so funny. She worked her ass off for many years before she was finally able to open her own salon. Her friend Nancy says that Patrice was always smiling and she made other people feel special. And her salon was like her dream come true, right?
Yeah.
Her husband, Rob Endres, was very involved in helping her get her salon off the ground. When Patrice and Rob started dating, Patrice was 30 and Rob was 50.
I think they covered this story on one of the new seasons of Unsolved Mysteries.
That's one of my sources.
So I do know this story. It's been a while since I watched the episode, though, like a couple of years.
I felt like I really knew it, but I had not watched that before, so I don't.
But also, it wouldn't have been on Unsolved Mysteries if it had been fully solved. So you have updates, so that's good.
I don't have an update.
Okay,
God!
Keep going anyway.
Stop. Drink your water. Stop talking.
Shh.
Okay. Zip it. All right. So she's 30. He's 50. Rob said being her partner made him feel like the luckiest man on the planet. I'm sure it did.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of looks
Mm-hmm.
like Kourtney Kardashian. Mhm.
Right.
Gorgeous.
She's a gorgeous
Mhm,
woman.
mhm. He met her when she was working at a really small salon where she was like renting a chair, and he randomly stopped by one day for a quick haircut. He says that the 7 years he had with Patrice were the best years of his life. So everyone in their community loved Patrice. She had a lot of regular clients, and most of the time, even after she was finished cutting their hair or doing whatever, they would stick around and just gab with her at the salon. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you do.
That's the best kind of
I
hairdresser.
know. My hairdresser is my friend, and there's a lot of that. Just
Yeah, I love it. It's giving Steel Magnolias. You know what I'm
This
saying?
is the second Steel Magnolias reference already today. It's time.
I might have to just go watch that movie today.
It's so good.
I should. It's been a while.
My favorite
a
is
while.
like, it takes some effort to look like this. Yeah.
I remember watching that movie with like a boyfriend of mine once, like
Mhm.
years ago, and he'd never seen it, and I was like, "You've never seen Steel Magnolia?" So we watched it together, and like he cried with me at all the spots where we cry. It was
Perfect.
so
Oh.
great.
Yeah, if you don't cry during Steel Magnolias, you're
You're
dead
dead
inside.
inside.
You might be a family annihilator. That's a red flag. There's
Red
your
flag.
sign. Oh my God. Okay, so her friend Anne met her that way. Getting her hair done and then just gabby, and they were besties after that.
Right.
And so Anne would drive by Patrice's shop on her way home from work, and most evenings she would stop in and say hi before going home. So on this day that Patrice went missing, Anne stopped by the salon on her way home, and like she always did, but the parking lot was full of police cars and Patrice wasn't there. She was like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
So when police arrived, they saw that the register was open with money missing. Her purse was still in the shop, and you could see that she was in the process of warming up her lunch. And everything else looked normal.
Okay.
There was no blood. There was nothing knocked over. There was
like no sign of a struggle.
Like she just walked out the front door. So at first, Pistol is not really digesting what the police are telling him. He's not really worried initially. He assumes that she just like went somewhere and she'll be back. But also he's a kid,
Right.
Rob is asked to go to the police department and do an interview. And Rob's like, I have a degree in criminology, so I know that the husband needs to be looked at first. And then once I'm cleared.
So Rob is not Pistol's dad.
No, we'll get to that. No.
And Rob, was he living with Patrice and Pistol?
Yes, this guy. We'll get to this guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
remember.
Okay.
I've
Stop
seen.
it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Shh. Down in front. I'm trying to listen.
So the only thing that was a bit weird at the salon was the way that Patrice's car was parked. So all of her friends and clients said that she always parked the same way every day. She parked on the side of the building and she would back in. But on this day, it was like pulled into the front sort of haphazardly, like not even in a spot, just like crooked and pulled up front.
Right. Almost like in a hurry. Yeah.
Yeah. A thorough search of the area around the salon was done. There's no sign of Patrice. Police ask her friends if they think there was any possibility that Patrice would have abandoned her life. And they're like, no, she would never leave her son behind. She was like in love with him.
And she loved her life. She had the salon. It was her dream. She was doing what she loved and what she was good at. She had friends. She was part of a community. Like people knew her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no. Pistol says that about 2 weeks before she went missing, she did ask him, if anything ever happened to me, where would you go? And he didn't really think much of it at the time because that was like the totality of the conversation. He was like, I guess I'd go with my dad, but it was just kind of odd, right?
Yeah.
So police put together a timeline of the day that she went missing. They used her appointment book to verify who was at the salon that morning. Her first
Mhm.
client was Pam Shepard, who arrived around 8:50 a.m. for her 9 o'clock appointment. And Pam said that Patrice seemed distracted and wasn't very attentive to her, which was unusual for
Hmm.
her. Around
Mhm.
11:05, Pam pays and leaves. And at 11:10, Paul Cantor comes in for his haircut. He left the shop at 11:27. He said that he got a phone call right as he was walking out, and the police are able to verify that call based on his phone records. Like, took a phone call,
Mhm.
he left. At 11:35, a customer calls the shop to change their appointment. And that call lasted about 2 minutes, and the customer said that Patrice was a bit short on the phone with them, which was unusual for her.
So people are
Mhm.
noticing like something's off about
Yep.
Patrice today.
The next phone call comes in at 11:50, but it rings and goes unanswered. So, police are speculating that it was during that 13-minute window that something happened.
Mhm.
Mhm.
She hung up the phone, she went to heat up her lunch,
Mhm.
and some
Some
shit
shit
went
went
down.
down. Yep. Two independent witnesses came forward and both said that they drove by the salon at 11:45 and noticed that Patrice's car was parked in that strange way, which was unusual, and that there was a Chevy Lumina parked in one of the customer spots. The salon door was open and the Chevy Lumina did have Georgia plates on it. The other witness said the same thing, but they believed that the other car was possibly a Ford Taurus or a Malibu, which look really similar. They
Mhm.
look like our driver's ed cars.
Yeah, what year was
This
this
was
again?
2004, but I think it was an older
Okay.
model, either Chevy Malibu um, or Chevy Lumina or Ford Taurus. Is that what I said? Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the witnesses also said that they saw two women standing outside near this car. One was a younger woman who was tall with dark hair, and the other was a shorter, older woman. The other witness saw two people as well, but he believes that the taller person was actually a man with shoulder length hair. Mhm.
Hmm.
The witnesses also said that the two individuals had hands on each other that looked weird, almost as if one person was helping the other person up off the ground.
Huh.
Very weird.
Mhm.
So, Pistol was 8 years old when his mom married Rob, and he is not a fan. Not a fan.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
says that in that first year of marriage, Rob was really nice and very much tried to be a stepdad to him, but after that first year, he turned into a completely different person.
Yep.
He said that every time he saw Rob, he had something snide and negative to say about him or to him, or I'm really triggered by shitty step parents. I never
I
had
know.
one, but it really pisses me off.
Mhm.
Patrice's friends thought that Rob seemed to always hover around her. He was overly protective and he seemed like he was jealous of anyone else in her life, even her girlfriends and her son.
Gross.
Mhm.
You know how I feel about jealousy.
Yeah. Listen, we all feel it from time to time, but you gotta keep that shit at bay. It's not a cute look.
You know what? That's all your shit to deal with. Deal
Mhm.
with it. Deal
Mhm.
with it.
He seemed to have an issue with how much attention she gave Pistol and kind of acted
Okay.
like the attention that Pistol was getting was taking away from his attention.
Oh, for God's sakes, fucking grow
But you
up.
are 50 years old, sir.
I ca
Mm-mm. Her
Okay.
friend said that the couple fought quite a bit and Patrice was unhappy. Today, Rob says that the couple did not fight, but he did have an issue with how Patrice cared for Pistol. He says that she never disciplined him and that he was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And Rob didn't see any potential of a future for Pistol. That's what
Oh, for fuck's sake. Fuck
I
right
don't I
off,
don't like this
Rob.
guy.
Yeah, he's got a vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Slimy. I remember feeling like he was
Uh-huh.
slimy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pistol says that a few weeks prior to her going missing, she was talking about getting a divorce. But of course,
Mm.
Rob says, like, that's news to me.
Oh, right. Sure. Okay,
Okay,
Rob.
Rob.
He's an untrustworthy narrator
For sure.
here.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
The day after she went missing, Rob changed all the locks on the doors and wouldn't let Pistol in to get his things.
Yeah.
Rob said that he did this as a precautionary measure because he didn't want him in the house because he didn't like Pistol and he wanted him to stay at his dad's house. Mm-hmm.
No transition period.
No,
Just
yeah,
bye.
your mom is gone and now you're being kicked out of your home.
She's missing. We don't know what happened to her.
Yeah.
Sir, supposedly, we don't know what happened to her. She could return. But that very day, we're just going to lock the kid out and send him packing to his dad's without him coming inside to get any of his shit.
So if divorce was news to you, buddy, if she does return and sees that you've done that, like, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, it's on now. Oh, yeah, it's on the table. Yeah, it's on. Divorce is inevitable. Okay.
So Pistol went and stayed with his dad on his dad's farm. His parents, his biological parents, were still best friends. And so when Patrice went missing, his dad fell into a deep depression. And so it was just really difficult for Pistol. Like, he didn't really have an emotional support anywhere.
Yeah.
And every day he woke up thinking that today would be the day that she would reappear.
Oh.
I know.
Which is like the absolute like purgatory of somebody missing.
I know. I
can't even
I can't
imagine.
even. No. Missing indefinitely is probably the absolute worst. Worse than
whatever the outcome is. Yes.
He was hoping that she had gone to like start a new life away from Rob and that she was just like getting things squared away and then she was coming back for him. I know.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
Know. So police start going through everything. They interview everyone. They go through all of Patrice's financial records and phone records. They don't find anything. They interview a guy named Gary Hilton who was found guilty of abducting Meredith Emerson and her dog in a neighboring county. He held her hostage, kept her alive for a number of days before killing her. He was also someone who liked to rob people and businesses, and he made a comment once to investigators that his favorite place to do this was at hair salons.
Right.
And he said that the best time to do this was at lunchtime.
Yeah.
They've not been able to rule him out, but they also don't have anything to really charge him with in Patrice's disappearance.
Right.
Then there's this dude, Jeremy Jones. I kind of want to look into him because he seems fucking spooky.
Okay.
He was arrested in Alabama for murdering women there. He went on to confess to 8 murders, and he said that he needed to tell them about a hairdresser in Georgia. He said that he was passing by the salon and decided to go in. He said that when he went in, he asked Patrice if she could come out and help him, that his car needed a jump. He drew a diagram of where her car was parked and where he was parked, and it was accurate to what those witnesses said they saw. He said that he forced her into his car by knife point, then drove 65 miles to Sweetwater Creek, which is actually a river, and threw her over the bridge.
Oh my God. Okay.
So investigators go to this spot with cadaver dogs and boats, and they find nothing.
Right.
Jeremy Jones later recants this confession, and investigators found no evidence linking him to Patrice's disappearance. So there was nothing they can do.
These false confessions are always so
I
bizarre.
know. He's still considered a strong suspect, though. The reason I want to look into this guy is because I was watching you watched the episode of them interviewing him about this, and his affect is spooky. Like, he's super cheerful and just like doop-a-doo. He's talking about these things like he's
that kind of like Ed Kemper
kind
style.
of, but he's like really young, and it's just weird. I didn't like it. I need to know more. In December 2005, so it's 20 months since Patrice has been missing, Albert Clark was building onto his family church when a friend stopped by with some biscuits. This guy. has this
Okay.
really thick Southern drawl, and he's like, "I was just out there building. He came out with some biscuits, and he asked me to go eat a biscuit with him." I mean, it's like so wholesome. So the two friends are sitting on the back porch eating biscuits when Albert notices further down the property like a swarm of flies. So they finish their biscuits and head down to see what's going on, and they find a dead deer. But next to the deer, they see a human skull.
Oh.
Mhm. So Pistol is sitting in class again. It's his senior year when he got called down to the office, and he walks in and his dad is sitting there. And that is when they told Pistol that his mom's remains had been found.
Oh.
So this church was about 6 miles from Patrice's salon. Ebert and his friends called, is it Ebert or Albert? I think it's Ebert. And his
Okay.
biscuit friend called investigators when they found that skull. And
His biscuit
it's like
friend.
it's such an old, like, Southern thing to do. "I stopped by with a biscuit for you. Let's sit on the porch and eat
I
biscuits
know,
together."
right?
God,
With like some butter
I
and
know.
some
I want
honey.
somebody to show up at my door with a biscuit.
Warm biscuits with butter and honey.
Yes,
Damn
damn.
it.
I'm doing it. So investigators come down and they fully clear out that entire area, which is heavily wooded in a super remote area. They search for 2 days and they're able to recover a little less than half of Patrice's bones.
Ugh.
Mhm. Pistol firmly believes that Rob had something to do with this,
Yeah.
that possibly he knew that she planned to leave him.
Yeah.
Her friends also told police that they needed to look closely at Rob, but Rob adamantly denies having anything to do with any of this. He
Right.
says that he was at work and he has a receipt stopping for gas on his way to work, which was 45 minutes from the salon. He also has a timestamp of him clocking into work and that it would have been physically impossible for him to have been there.
He has the receipt,
I
you
have a
guys.
receipt. Investigators say that they thoroughly investigated Rob and the timeline, and they say that it would be unlikely for him to have been able to do it. Doesn't mean it couldn't have been hired. Mhm.
Right.
It's kind of known in the community as the Patrice mystery, and the fact that it all likely occurred in like a 13-minute window is very spooky.
Which is
Mhm.
wild. Yeah.
Police don't believe that robbery was the actual motive because the salon does not have a shit ton of cash. And at that
Right.
point in the day, she had had 2 clients. Like, whatever
Right.
you
Would she have in there like $100 or
yeah.
something?
The
Yeah.
salon is also on, like, a busy highway, so anybody could have walked in. They do
Right.
think that that car is a critical clue. And one things that investigators never found was her wedding band, which is kind of strange.
Oh.
Apparently, it was like a 1.5
Yeah.
carat diamond.
Maybe turned into a trophy.
Yeah. They say that they do have evidence that they will not be releasing to the public because it's critical information. So Rob has Patrice's ashes. And he refuses to let Pistol have any of them or any of her things, which is
Yeah.
fucking devastating.
It's so fucked.
He says during that first year after he got her ashes, he slept with her ashes in bed with them so they could snuggle.
No fucking comment.
He has them still in a box in his house. He hasn't even done anything special with them. He says he refuses to share the ashes with anyone, especially Pistol.
He's such a piece of shit. Even if he's not a murderer, he is a piece
That was
of
her
shit.
child. That even
I
if you
can't-
hate him, she loved him more than any other human on this planet.
And if you loved her for
Mhm.
real.
You
Exactly.
fucker. I feel so bad for Pistol. Just kicked out of his house completely.
Just insult after injury, insult after injury.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no arrest has been made in the abduction or murder of Patrice. I do have a phone number for a tip line that I will put in the show notes, or you can go to unsolved.com. The police really believe the key is that those 2 eyewitnesses, that car.
And that car and those 2 people.
All in 13 minutes.
It's wild.
It's so wild.
And the fact that her salon is like right there on that busy highway. People drive back and forth on it all day.
Yeah. Fuck. So yes, that was a crime, not a chaos, but it really bothered me, and it's still worth sharing.
Absolutely.
Poor Patrice. Poor Pistol.
Yeah, poor Pistol. God. Well, thanks for the refresh, sis.
You're welcome.
And, at least you had a story.
I came prepared a little bit. I came prepared for the wrong day. You know how I like to do that. I can show up for parties on the wrong day.
That's right. You know what? The virtual wine night, we Amber finally told the double barbecue story. That's
right.
Because I promised. I promised that would happen.
God.
So she had.
Are you talking about the one that's coming up?
That we just had.
Sister,
that we talked about at the beginning.
Okay,
yes.
I'll do it.
We made a promise months ago.
You. Not Shui.
Look, you cannot keep referring to it and then not tell the Chaos Kids what it's about.
I will.
I did say that, didn't I?
I'll do it. I'll fucking do it. All right.
Oh, well, you guys know what to do. Go join the club. You can get another episode every month that's behind the paywall for the Chaos Kids Club members.
Patreon.
It's at patreon.com
/yakety-yak.
/
Crime, Wine, and
Chaos. You could just join the Patreon as a free member, and you can still hang out with us over there. We talk about stuff over there. Yeah, you also get Chaos Kids Club members also get new episodes every week a day early. So
that's right.
Sister,
I love you.
I love you so much.
So chaotic.
So chaotic.
Bye.
Bye.
So Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Jeremy Williams. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com /Crime, Wine, and Chaos. Cheers!